Welcome to the Randolph Lloyd podcast, episode 8.
1, 2, either or.
Is the last one going to be 0 and this one's going to be 1?
I already rendered it as 0.
Okay, so this will be number 1 then. Fuck it. Even though nothing has changed from the last one to this one.
Yeah, we're those kinds of guys.
Other than, I have some sort of topic, I guess, this time.
Sure.
Well, okay, how about the easiest thing will be news? Because that's
I was
kind of
going to touch on that.
Well, because the fucking MAGA bomber is what everybody's calling him.
And then the shooting today.
And then
today.
I haven't looked at the shooting at all today.
It's kind of crazy.
This is America. Yet again, people were shot just, living their lives.
Going to church.
But my favorite part about this one is the dude shot, like, a bunch of people and then shot 3 cops and then was like, I surrender. And they were like, let's take him into custody. But a black person's like, hey, is this a soda? And they just shoot him 8 times. I'm like, it's just the country we live in now. That dude shot 3 cops and they arrested him. That's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, you would think there'd be a line for that. Like,
at
what point do you just assume like he's clearly mentally unstable in some capacity?
What is black?
Like, but like after you kill that many cops, don't you think you should be like, maybe we should just kill him instead of like trying to take the chance?
What happened to shoot to kill? That
Yeah.
whole thing. What happened to?
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand if he like walked out with like his hands up and like.
I assume.
Then
that's
you
what
kind of. Then you're like, then there's leeway, like you know. But
that would have been rough. It's like, and he's coming out of the building and they shoot him like 80 times. Go, fuck.
It's like that fucking that episode of what was it, like Law and Order CSI with Justin Bieber?
When he
gets out of the truck or whatever. And then he like twitches, and then you get just fucking gunned down.
I remember when that came out, everybody was like, "Wow, they killed Justin Bieber," and people were freaking out about it. It's like, well, like every celebrity at some point usually goes on Law and Order or CSI,
and it's usually the villain.
One of those guys.
A lot of times it's the villain. Well, because like you want them on once and then off.
Yeah, exactly.
So like the easiest way to do it is just be a killer.
Out the door.
They're like a murderer or something.
Yeah.
And they get killed or.
Yeah, you don't see any of them being like pedophiles or any of that.
No,
they're usually a murderer.
They kind of stay clear of that.
No rapists or anything. Sometimes a drug dealer.
Yeah,
like, they're
like
really low stuff.
Or they're like, we want you to come on Law and Order. Do you have a role you want to play? And you're like, the rapist. And you're not coming on Law and Order anymore.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
No more late night TV shows. Yeah. No more specials.
Was filled.
The spot was filled.
Yeah, we just decided no.
Yeah, right.
But yes, there was a lot of shit I saw. Even just glancing through fucking earlier, because like the MAGA bomber and everybody he sent to, and then they caught him, and then apparently also they found on Twitter he had been like harassing and threatening people.
Yep.
Well, he was
and like
the one
been
that
reported multiple times, and Twitter was like,
Twitter never banned him.
Yeah, Twitter's like, nah.
And now everyone's like, hey, Twitter,
you fucking
real
asshole.
good, you dick.
Yeah, like
wasn't he the one that I told you guys he was like. Not arrested, but like investigated for terroristic threats.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
and like yet again, the system fails again to kind of like identify people like that,
yeah,
and then not do anything about it, and then something happens.
Yeah.
Luckily, he didn't kill anybody. If he killed anybody,
which
even worse.
Confuses me more though as to like
how do you make that many bombs?
How do you make that many bombs and not a single one of them work, or was that intentional?
I don't see it being intentional.
But like, how many bombs in total was it?
Unless it was
like 14.
14, yeah.
Nobody. They haven't said what his motive was. Well, it's like you can understand what his motive was.
Well,
Because of the people he targeted,
they speculate that it was like pro-Trump, anti-Democrat because of all the people they targeted. But like, that's not really confirmed. But still, like, that's a lot for not a single one of them to work.
Yeah, right.
Like, you got to be reading the wrong fucking manual.
It was probably some like FBI website where they were telling
like,
you how to make a bomb, but they were failed bombs.
Or you bought like fake explosives off the black market, or like I don't know what.
Yeah.
At some point you fucked up for the entire plan, but
yeah, it's weak sauce.
Or is intentional, and like to me, either of them seems
more of like
likely.
A message kind of
thing. I feel like intentional.
Yeah.
I don't think he's smart enough for it to be a meta. Like my intention was to just scare you. Like I don't think he's smart enough for that.
Yeah.
Guys, it was a false flag conspiracy. Come on.
Obviously, it's because the midterm election.
He has a publicity stunt.
We just put a bomb in this mailbag and send it everywhere.
What a fucking stunt that is.
Yeah, like, do they really think like Obama's out there at night, like, like putting shit in mailboxes? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Drive me up to that other mailbox down the road.
God damn it, Michelle, get in the car!
Get in the fucking car! Damn it!
Yeah, no. I like this is one of those weeks that it's like it happens like once a year where there's so much crazy stuff happens.
Yep. Monday there'll probably be a school shooting, just cause.
Just cause.
Hasn't really been any in the news for a little while.
For
any school shootings.
No.
Because if your kill count's under 4, no one cares.
You know, that's a good point, actually.
Is that a dark joke? Yeah. Is that a real joke? Yeah.
Well, because, last year it got to a point where there's too many that they just stopped reporting on smaller ones. Like,
because the big ones make the headlines.
Well, you straight up just didn't hear about the ones that killed, like, injured, like, 4 people, like, didn't kill anybody. Like, you just didn't even hear about those ones.
It's like if somebody went to, like, one of the local high schools here.
Yeah.
And then shot up the place, but only shot 3 people.
But
it'd be a huge thing here, but it wouldn't be a huge thing on national news.
I wonder if that trend has continued at all, where like maybe there's a couple this year that we just don't know about, and like they're just so small scale that like
because they are. They still impact the community the same way, just not like the world. The same way.
It's like occasionally something will come out, not on national news, but maybe like the local DC news or something.
Yeah.
It'll be like, oh, somebody got shot at a high school or a middle school, but then that's really it. Like they don't care about.
Oh, I heard about the one a couple weeks ago that wasn't reported of that girl who stabbed her teacher in the neck. You hear about that shit?
No.
Some fucking middle schooler stabbed her teacher in the throat during class.
All right.
But somehow the teacher survived. All I read was that like she called the teacher over near the end of class to look at something, and when the teacher bent down over her paper, she fucking stabbed her.
With like a pencil?
With a knife.
Oh, with
like
a knife.
Big knife.
Like a knife.
Man, she must have gotten like an F on her previous test or something.
Well, yeah, I was like, because that could be interpreted as like a kid just getting like with anger issues going way too nuts and like fucking like violent lash out, or like intent to murder this particular person.
It sounded to me like intent to like kill her fucking teacher.
Like
the teacher survived. I don't know how.
Yeah, I guess was it a premeditated thing?
It sounded that way to me.
Because if you bring a knife, that's probably premeditated.
Yeah.
If it was a pencil, that'd be different, but.
You gotta bring knives into schools. You gotta sit in your bathroom and wait for the 15 kids to show up, and then try to kill them, and then drink their blood.
Did you fucking see? I mean, the fucking
that was
2
crazy.
15-year-old girls.
Dude, what is middle school nowadays?
11 and 12 years.
I don't remember anything like that happening when I was in middle school.
We were just like, hey, how much can I rub this eraser on my fucking wrist?
That was the worst. That was the worst.
And then you get to high school, and you just walk in an annex bathroom, and everybody's high as fuck. That's literally as bad as that got.
Or like, guys, do you think I can get down this spoonful of cinnamon?
Yeah.
You fucking idiots.
Cinnamon challenge.
No, did you guys see? There was some PSA video that was made. I don't know by who, but a PSA video saying if they're telling kids if their parents don't turn in their guns, that they should go and steal them from their parents' house and bring them to teachers.
Bring them to teachers?
Bring them to teachers.
Where
like bring them to school.
Yeah, I want to know where this was.
I literally like flew by it. I have to find it again.
Kind of one of those things where you read it, you're just
like,
oh,
literally
no.
picture. The picture is this guy's like a little kid's hand reaching in a drawer and grabbing like a
Glock. Stock photo kind of thing.
Yeah, like grabbing a Glock, and it was like, bring it to your teachers. And everybody's like, why the fuck?
Educational gun buyback system.
And like in no way on either end, even if you want people to get rid of their guns or you don't want people to get rid of their guns, regardless, that's a terrible fucking idea.
Yeah, that's really
like across the board. Like one, don't tell kids to fucking steal guns. 2, don't have them bring them to fucking school.
They're tools, Jake.
Like
they're tools.
Do you remember when being a school shooter was like an edgy joke? But now it's something that's just like, oh yeah, that kid is like,
something John's probably gonna do.
Literally every kid or every class is like, that's the kid who's gonna do it.
That's
like
the
you have like a ranking of like who's the most likely to do it.
My class definitely had like a top 3.
Scott Crocker. I'll say full fucking name.
Oh god. Yeah, now he's gonna come here. Great.
I will destroy Scott Crocker. I don't give a fuck. Nah, for real. Shout out to you, Scott. Hope you're doing alright.
Hope he's not dead like the rest of our fucking class.
Yeah, for real. Stop dying, classmates. Jesus Christ.
Dead, getting pregnant, or getting fat. That's really the
or OD.
Hey.
Or OD. I mean, it still counts as dead, but
dead dumb.
The end goal is still
to live.
Yeah, well, that's true.
To live past the age of 25, yeah. That's.
I hope that's everybody's goal.
That's on my list. I don't know about you, but it's on mine.
I don't know. Remember, millennials talk about death more than every other generation. I don't know if we have our priorities straight.
Remember, Nick said he read an article, saying that like, basically like picking the brain of millennials' mind.
Yeah.
And it was like, majority of it's talking about like the cynicism and nihilism that they all have. And it was like, all you guys talk about like killing yourself and being sad, and he was like, yeah, I read the whole thing and it really reminded you guys, and basically at the end just said, don't do it. I was like, they clearly didn't pick enough if they have to say don't do it.
Do you think meme culture, I'm gonna say this with like a broad stroke, meme culture is responsible for like us three as an example, we're at work, and somebody's like, open that box and put the t-shirts on the table. And so I just hear in the corner, oh man, I'm just gonna kill myself, you know, like, and so it's like, and it's not serious.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing. For us, it's not like a really serious thing, even though we're pretty like, you know, invested on like the whole like don't actually kill yourself thing. Like we're always serious about that. But like, is like meme culture and how deep it's gone kind of responsible for that in your guys' opinion?
Probably.
Or is it more?
I would go more about it's the effect rather than the cause. So like, I would say the effect of that type of personality or just mindset for a generation is due to the fact of like social media and news and just the fact of like everything going to shit since we're young, aka like 9/11. From the time we're all really young, and like, cause like I don't remember as much, but you do a little more.
Yeah,
somewhat. He does a little bit.
I was still only like 5 or 6 years old. But
literally, that's one of our earliest memories. Is a fucking national tragedy.
Ooh, that is true.
National tragedy.
That's true.
And then everything after that has pretty much gotten worse, to be honest.
I think it's the one thing that's like impacted us the most.
And then like as we're getting older, we're realizing how like fucking like baby boomers like ruined the fucking economy and like basically killed the planet. And like we won't have like social security by the time we're eligible
what,
for
2026?
Yeah.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, 2026 supposed to be done.
In 10 years it'll be
and and like the fucking whatever that article was that just came out, like, oh, in 10 years the planet will basically just be fucking dead and there's no way to bring it back to saving.
Yeah.
Like it's set on a path to destruction, and like at this point most millennials are too young to be like in Congress or be like run for president or anything, so pretty much all of us just have to live with that.
Do you think we just like do you think years. We like if we were if our generation was 10 years older and we like I think what the
I fucking
House
wish...
of Representatives is what, 25?
I
think 27 maybe?
20, I want to say 26, 27.
I thought it was going to be like mid later.
Because president's like 35, isn't it?
Yeah, president's 35.
30, yeah.
Well, like House of Representatives, like if we were all 5 years older and we were running for elections, do you think we would just like basically eviscerate everything previously made? Or,
honestly,
like,
I
for, like,
would.
Those types of topics?
Yeah, I would see of like. I don't know. I don't even know how in the fuck you get in the realm of politics, but like, if I were running for president, I would be much more, I think, of like a domestic president than a foreign. And I would basically just start from like the ground up of like just fixing shit.
Kind of like a rebuild.
Like it's disgusting how much stuff they're like, we need to focus on the military and that's about it. Like how much money, and I get that America does.
Billion?
It is like they have the biggest military and like we have to keep it in check and the fucking world in check and all that, and sure, that's dandy. And like I'm not saying I wouldn't like fucking take all the funding away from like American military spending, but like I don't think it has to be nearly as high as it is.
No,
yeah, neither do I.
I would take a large chunk of that to like literally ground zero would be fixing fucking Flint, Michigan. They still have fucked up water.
Which is nuts. How old is that thing? 5 years old?
3 years.
I thought it was longer than that.
But like regardless, like that's still a significant amount of time too long. Like that should have been fixed like the next week. It like honestly it should have been
pipeline should have been
the
laid.
fact that it has is disgusting. So like I would immediately just go start with that shit, and then like one of the longest things that like you obviously can't just like fix, but like border policy with like immigration, like the fucking immigration forms are disgusting. How big and fucked up they are. Like how long the lists are, and like to get
I mean like to get to like be a citizen,
yeah,
to
get
like
to take like a citizenship test. Your knowledge of American history, it has to be better than like a fucking high schooler's. Like you have to know a lot about American history and a lot about our government system, more than the average American does. Just living in America, how much they know about everything. Yeah. You have to know like twice as much as them.
Yeah, I find it interesting. Like I think my little brother and I went through one of those like we were talking about it one night or something, and I looked up like the U.S. citizenship test. And I was going through the list. Like I knew the majority of it because I'm like a civics nerd almost, like and like history buff.
Yeah,
so it's like all that stuff I was easy.
Well, for like certain
people that don't know.
Yeah, for certain people it might be easier because like we all happen to like history. We all talk about news and politics quite often and economics, but like fucking my dad doesn't. Like he doesn't talk about that stuff nearly as much. Like some of my other friends don't talk about that stuff nearly as much. So that might not be that easy for everyone. And then to make literally every person who wants to become a citizen have to take that hard fucking test. Seems a little much.
Yeah. I can't get your internet to work. So how long?
Is it not working?
I can't get it to have like a stable Wi-Fi connection. I don't know how long Flint hasn't had water, but it's probably too long.
I can believe
It's
that.
already past a year and however
I
many
think a week
weeks.
was too long, so
Yeah.
like 40 times that now.
Flint.
I still see that occasionally, like, because like when I'm scrolling on Facebook or something, somebody will post like a video of Flint, Michigan, somebody's still like lighting their water on fire or something. I'm just like, oh my god, why?
That shit happened in 2014.
So 4 years.
Yeah,
Split
April
the
2014.
difference. That's brutal.
there's more important topics than people
That's
having
a
clean
failure.
water.
That's a failure of 2 straight presidents. That's rough.
Yeah.
They said actually they have gotten to a point where you can drink some water. Some water is safe now to drink. That just happened though on April 6th of this year.
Which is still what, 3.5 years then?
That still
More
took
than it
way
needs to
too
be?
long. Like yeah, that's something that should have been done like the next week. And like I guess good that they fixed it because they should have, but like you don't get a pat on the back for that.
You don't get a pat on the back for taking way too long.
Yeah.
That's more of like a slap on the wrist, like do it shorter next time,
don't
kind of thing.
fuck it up.
Yeah, but I think really tried off that on that conversation, but I think the reason of all of that is that's why like meme culture is the way it is because of
A pessimistic atmosphere.
yeah, the pessimistic atmosphere of everything and us just basically having to deal with it. I think that is like the way we convey it is through the dark fucked up humor of memes.
I mean,
Like,
yeah, like if you were to straight ask your parents, if your parents were like, "Ooh, why aren't you like happier all the time?" Or whatever, like, I am. I'm a happy person. But like theoretically, if you're a different millennial and you're like, and your parents are like, "Why are you always like laughing at terrible memes, joking about killing yourself?" It's like, explain to me in the next 15 years what I have to look forward to.
Yeah.
It's not much.
Like what exactly?
It's not much at all.
Yeah.
What
So-
exactly is going to be there that we're not going to have to build ourselves?
Yeah.
Like
So,
we're
like,
literally
like,
gonna
just
have to
gonna have to
create.
clean up after.
Yeah, we really have to create everything on our own.
And like it's
they just
hilarious when
fucked up.
boomers are like, "Just fucking complain," and it's
Yeah,
like,
Remember, millennials are lazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
the
don't know what
worst
they're doing.
generation of all.
yeah. Just remember that. All the people saying
We
that
were the
people
real
fucked up
generation, not that we
everything.
fought any wars or did anything hard.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
Baby
almost like
boomers.
we don't want wars and other things
Maybe
to
it's
put
like
us back.
That is okay. That
Blowing
is
each
one
other
of
up
my- We're
doesn't
gonna
really
talk
solve
about
that
now.
many
Shut up,
things.
Jade. My one of the things that like triggers me to my core is like every D-Day or like Pearl Harbor Day when those fucking retards post like 18-year-olds in 1942 and it's like dead bodies on the beach. And then it's like, millennials now eat Tide Pods. And you're like, shut the fuck
Yeah.
up.
What?
And then I saw somebody one time was
It's
like,
meme
oh
culture
yeah,
at its prime.
because that's what 18-year-olds wanted to do in 1945. Die on a beach. No, actually they wanted to go to the dance with their best girl and do racism.
Yeah.
I
Do
was like,
Jesus Christ.
that's accurate. I mean,
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess for the time, yeah.
they didn't want to
I
go
guess.
fucking get
But yeah, that
murdered in the
wasn't like
jungle.
that wasn't their. They tried to. That's the
That
other
is
part that fucking
America's
irritates me.
fetishization of the military and
Yeah.
warfare.
Exactly.
Retro
They
fetishism.
try to. They literally.
fetishism on my shit.
They literally try to make it sound like them and going and dying on a fucking beach in another
Makes
fucking
you a
country
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, yeah, they
Hero.
glorified that
Ugh.
shit as like honorary, and like all those motherfuckers were like, no, I
Yeah.
don't want to fucking do this. Like,
Or they were like,
Because that's
oh,
the whole
yeah.
thing. They were drafted.
I think
Yeah.
that's
It's still a draft
I
system.
think that's a fantastic. I'm gonna fucking quote a movie. That doesn't make sense. Fucking in Saving Private Ryan, in that scene in the very beginning when he's on the beach and sound goes out and it just shows all those different people.
yeah,
And that one kid is like hiding behind that metal thing, just
Yeah.
like crying
yeah,
and shit.
just crying.
That was the reality
yeah,
of the situation.
that
Like,
was about
I'm
as
gonna
real
go
as it
fight
gets.
Johnny Hitler, and then you
Yeah.
got on the beach and you're like, I'm gonna die.
The
And it's
reality
funny,
was, yeah.
it's funny too because World War II I think had the highest morale for American
It did.
soldiers. That was the highest.
They
it's ever
went
won.
in with high morale, but at the end,
And
everybody was like, "Wow!" Like,
yeah, well,
this
yeah. At
is
the end of
terrible.
every war, no matter what it is, everybody comes up with fucking PTSD.
It's like Vietnam was like that too. Like everybody hated Vietnam by the time it was ended.
Yeah, everyone has PTSD, but like even that one, as terrible as it was, that was the high point for soldier morale going
Yeah.
in.
Definitely.
I guess.
And
it was-
so that means
yeah.
literally everyone else has been worse than that. And World War II, still everyone still fucking wanted to kill themselves. Most of them fucking died.
Well, and that
Still
was the
giving
war
them
also
PTSD.
that they probably covered their ass the best. The government did when they came back and they just like threw money and college education at them.
Yeah.
So then
Yeah,
it's like
true.
at least
They-
you'd had that. But like, I mean, not that makes up for it, but it's better than Vietnam where they came back and they're like, "Have fun being homeless."
Yeah, I don't know that much about the World War II, but I remember you telling me that the book you read about Vietnam, where like all of them are like heroin addicts.
Yeah, they're all horrible.
And they're all
addicts.
like huge drug addicts because like they didn't know how else to cope with sitting in a fucking jungle for years of their life.
Like I compare those, like I'll compare, like let's compare World War II to like let's say the War on Terror right now. The War on Terror was just like nobody really knew what was going on.
Yeah,
they basically just sent U.S. troops over into the Middle East and said like do your job.
Yeah.
But half the time it was like what is that job? Walk down a street
exactly
where maybe one person's going to shoot at you occasionally.
Yeah.
Like
you step on a car that's a bomb.
Yeah, like it's much more of a morale drain when you don't know what you're doing over there, really.
Yeah.
So like, and for our generation, we hated that. Like, it was one of those things where it's like, it was like you could argue some points were necessary, but the majority of that is just like at this point, people are just getting killed over there, and we're not really doing anything except destabilizing governments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's what ended up happening was a bunch of government destabilizations. But in World War II, it was like go over to Germany, we're gonna kill some Nazis.
Yeah.
And then you're going to come home and get paid.
Yeah.
Or like get like a free college education or something.
Get rid of the Nazis.
So it's like comparing the two is like an interesting thing from era to era where there's really no benefits at this point, especially with the VA being terrible.
For the individuals,
Yeah. And then like, but that was why the morale was so high back then was because, they had something to look coming back to. But now it's like, I'm going to come back with PTSD. Maybe I'll get a good college education.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, because the World War II was like. It was pretty set in stone. Of World War II is the Allies versus the Axis, and like there are two very clear sides, and they're against each other for their differences. Whereas like the war on terrorism is kind of a blanket statement almost, where it's literally like random proxy wars just fucking everywhere.
And that's the problem
for whatever different reason. But not everybody always knows what the reason for the location that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
This person's in Saudi Arabia. This person's in Iran. This person's in Afghanistan. Not all of them exactly know why they're there. They're all in different spots for different reasons.
Have you seen? There's a video on YouTube. I can't remember who did it, but it explains the Syrian civil war and like the Syrian conflict in general and how many sides there are and who like internationally is taking sides, and it's just like a web.
Yeah.
And you can't really understand it. So it's like when you see that, you're just like, I don't know who the enemy is here.
But like that's awful that it gets to that confusion point. Meanwhile, like in between all of that, people are just like you just have two random people who aren't from the same country, and they're like we should probably shoot them, and then just start fighting each other.
Yeah.
For really no particular reason.
It's much different than how war used to war back in the day.
Yeah, that happens way too much.
You know, like what you consider a typical war with one side versus another side.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, World War II was probably the last clean cut in the Western civilization idea of like friend versus foe, that sort of idea.
There's almost like a morality fight too.
Yeah, it's probably the one war you can be like, yeah, that was pretty justified.
Yeah.
As far as Hitler and the Japanese and stuff, but like every war after that was pretty.
It's all proxy stuff. Like
I mean, Korea was just we have to stop this communism.
Yeah. So was Vietnam.
So was Vietnam.
Yeah, that was all the Cold War shit.
Yeah,
was literally where that started.
And then everyone forgets,
stop this ideal.
You forgot. Everyone just forgets that we invaded Grenada in the 80s.
True. Yeah, it's true.
No one pays attention to that.
Yeah.
The Gulf War was quote unquote justified because they invaded Kuwait, but we wouldn't have helped Kuwait if they didn't have oil.
Resources.
Yeah,
it's all resource. Yeah. Nowadays it's resource stuff.
It's because we're running out of resources.
You're kidding. You're kidding yourself if you don't acknowledge that the war on terrorism, 50% of it is the oil wars.
At least that.
Like it's.
I consider like.
I feel like I shouldn't. Just for the sake of media, I probably shouldn't say his name.
You should.
Yeah.
An individual who will not be
named. One of our friends is in a branch of the military, and he's stationed across overseas, and like we used to joke and shit that like, oh, he's going to be stationed. He'd help people, and like work on the military base and like do whatever the fuck he's.
Which I don't deny that he probably.
And I'm sure he does do actual work, but like. I follow him on Snapchat and all that, and I check that shit every day, and literally 90% of it is him waking up, working out, going to his what is it, PT formation? Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
like basically a roll call.
Like that. Yeah.
And then him going and like touring around fucking the cities that are nearby and going to a fucking motorbike speedway that's like his favorite new thing. And he goes to a lot of clubs.
I guess when you look at that, you kind of look like, why really?
I literally talked to him because like remember we gave him shit for that. Then we told him it was like, oh nice, go have fun fighting the oil wars. And you're like, no, what are you talking about? That's bullshit. And like 2 years in, he's like, no, yeah, you're right. Fucking oil wars. The only
It's
reason we're here
100%.
is just to sit on top of this oil. And I was like, exactly.
And that's why.
Like, we
now,
know.
I consider like when I think of like again like it's passwords versus like resource wars now, or like resource management.
Yeah.
Like being tactical. It's like back then wars were like checkers, where your like objective is to take out the most stuff. But then now it's chess, where you have to like actually set up
Yeah.
like pieces around like the
Yeah,
globe
you
and like
set
a
up,
chess
you build a
square.
little base, you move squads out in very tactical.
Go build a new base somewhere,
Yeah, go
maybe
build
that you got
another
like a
base over
tree
here.
with or something. Or,
Yeah.
like a meet,
This place is a little closer. It's a little more strategic. So we'll build
Yeah.
a new base over here.
yeah.
Make sure we don't leave anything in this base. We'll blow it up or some shit. Make sure nobody can get to it. But yeah, it's so convoluted to the point of like, I don't know. It's too much hate in the world. That's basically what it
Yeah.
is. Too much hate.
That's
Too much hate. Peace
That's-
and love, Noah.
That's cute, Jake.
Peace and love.
There's always hate in the world.
Get with it. Peace and love is the new thing.
That's one of my
Sometimes
least
just-
favorite things is when people are like, it's worse than ever now. And it's like, no, it's not.
It's always
It's
been
just
this way.
now you just have social media to tell you how bad everything is.
You're just aware of how
Read
bad
a
it's
fucking
been.
history book. Literally, the world is terrible and always has been.
Yeah.
Like,
Since the beginning of time.
Do you feel like people are not trying to get involved with the same amount of stuff that's going on in the world now? Like, well, compared to previously, there was always still stuff going on. Do you think people are more hesitant now to get involved with stuff?
I think
Or,
they're
like,
almost more
stuff being what?
willing to now because they're aware of it.
Do you think so?
Wait, stop
Because
being what?
I kind of disagree with that a little bit.
I don't know. People have. What do you mean?
Because
As
okay,
far
so like
as,
so like the
an
United States,
example.
for example. I mean, foreign policy has changed in the last 2 years.
Oh, as far as a country, yeah.
But like, kind of like, it's still a worldwide problem. Where like, you know, like the Rohingya crisis in I think it was Burma,
Yeah,
Myanmar. Nobody got involved with that.
Yeah, that was a
Everybody
war crime.
denounced it.
Yeah,
it
it
was
was a
it
war
was, it
crime.
was a genocide. It was
Yeah,
basically a
everybody just
genocide,
left it.
a religious genocide. But nobody got involved with it, and it's still going on to this day, technically. I think.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But like, it's still we're not involved because it's like, oh, it's over there.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I thought
Stuff
you
like
meant
that.
people as in individuals, but no, as in countries. Yes,
Mhm.
countries don't want to get involved because it's bad PR if you go anywhere and do anything.
I think like almost in a way, it could be good PR if done correctly.
Sure,
If
could
you
be
could go
good
if like the
PR.
United States went in and like separated everybody,
So
and then everybody was
You have
good
to
and
know
peaceful,
exactly how
then
to
it'd be
handle
good.
it though, because I mean, technically, like that should be something the UN should be on top of.
Mhm.
Is stopping like a fucking
All they
war
did was
crime
send
like that.
peacekeepers there, and they were like,
And-
okay, just.
But
stand
like
there.
the thing,
That's it.
what was that?
Rwanda.
Isn't I can't remember the
Yeah.
exact rule, but isn't it like UN soldiers? They can't actually go and attack anybody. They literally just stand.
They can't be attacked.
They're,
They can't
they're
attack unless
stationed.
attacked.
Yeah, they're stationed to
That's
stay
the
in place. So basically, as long as you don't shoot as the UN soldiers, they can't do anything.
Which leads like their term peacekeepers doesn't make any sense.
So it doesn't actually.
because you're not doing anything
Yeah,
to keep peace.
yeah. Stopping what's currently happening isn't nearly as good as preventing something that's going to happen. But then that also draws in the problem of like a lot of because like a lot of other countries give America shit for basically policing the world
Mhm.
for stuff
Yeah.
like that.
That's
which
where
is,
it
which
gets
was supposed to be
edgy.
the point of the UN,
Yeah.
but like they don't fucking hold true to
They
that.
don't police the world.
Yeah,
That's
they
the
don't.
thing.
They're
It's like
suppo-
slaps
they're
on the
supposed
wrist.
to be,
It's
but they
constant
don't.
There's
slaps on the
fucking
wrist.
pictures from Rwanda of like the peacekeepers sitting on top of their tanks
Yeah,
who watched people get macheted to death in the street because
Yeah.
they couldn't do anything about it.
they're literally
Yeah.
not allowed.
And you
to.
have to follow orders, or else you're gonna
Yeah.
look like the
Like,
one who's like, you're probably gonna get
They
killed in response
watched
or
women
something.
like get raped and murdered because it was just like we're peacekeepers.
Yeah.
we can't
Yeah.
do anything.
keeping the peace like that. Yeah, that
Yeah.
shit
But
doesn't
that's
make any
like
sense
the
at
whole
all.
thing. There is the argument of like, can the UN just swoop in? If like, okay, let's say the majority of the UN agrees that they need to do something. Let's take this Rohingya crisis for
Yeah.
example, and they say we need to send troops there now. So they just drop troops in and separate the two sides, forcefully or not. That brings up the question of like state sovereignty,
Mhm.
It does.
and then that's where it gets convoluted
Yeah.
because then you have like half of the UN saying don't do that, and then half the UN saying oh yeah do that,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and then basically the UN's just a mess anyways.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's just like we're gonna
like that's
have
why
it-
it doesn't.
we're gonna have this
ever get
international
done.
coalition that's supposed to do this, but we're not really gonna do this. We're all just gonna sit in our chairs and yell,
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
nothing's really gonna happen.
Mhm.
I will say their economic sanctions are something they can do,
Mhm.
It can, yeah.
like,
Economic
a banking
sanctions
but
probably.
there's
the-
no force
but-
behind.
but
There's
the-
no
yeah.
bite to
The
the
thing
bark,
is though
you know?
is economic sanctions are good, except they really only work well against larger countries,
True.
like
Because
first
that's when you
world
see
countries.
the hit.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
when
when
you
they have
see the
lots of
hit in
people and they have an
numbers.
economy that's booming and like circulates, and you can like put a halt in it, and it actually affects the country. Whereas like if you were to embargo the country of Chad That's
Nobody
not going to
cares.
do a whole
Like,
lot.
it's not gonna
Nothing's going to change there
Oh
because
look,
there's
your
nothing
sugar
to fucking
cane
embargo.
isn't.
Yeah.
I will
sugar
say,
cane
North
prices
Korea and
aren't-
Iran didn't want to talk until they had no food.
Yeah.
True.
So that
That
shit
is
does
true.
work.
So yeah, like on those countries that works because they have lots of people. They have governments, like established governments,
Mhm.
and like that all works well.
And there definitely is the problem with like, I don't even think the U.S. has ever been sanctioned for anything, have they?
I think they're talking about it now for the first time because of Trump's action against immigrants.
Who's
Oh,
going
really?
to sanction?
Or, I think
is it
was
like because of the
talk
recent
that.
caravan thing, or
I think it was before that.
Who was the talks amongst though?
I think it was just the Security Council. Was like, we might need to start talking about America.
that would bring up
I would-
immigration would be the topic to bring up though, or that like
I
brings
would
the
right.
conversation against the United States to the table
Yeah, it does.
because of a lot. Well, then again, a lot of countries support the United States now on its immigration policy because of the government's currently in place.
yeah, conservative government's big now.
Mm-hmm. But we don't ever get. We're kind of just like the deflectors, you know. We don't get.
Weren't
any...
for America, the UN wouldn't have lasted.
True.
Like if
Probably
if it was sort of like that original coalition that we were like, no, after World War One, like the UN wouldn't have worked anyway.
You mean like the League of Nations?
Oh, League of
Or,
Nations.
like,
Yeah, League of Nations. Yeah.
Because we didn't join that, and that's what it dissolved.
That's why it
Yeah,
failed.
basically.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we're the only superpower.
We're-
We can do whatever we want.
Well, I mean, we're basically the UN, but not the UN.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Change one letter.
but
We
yeah.
hold the one vote. Well, that's the weird thing about the Security Council. Everything has to be unanimous.
Yeah.
So it's like one person says no, then it's like, all right, drop that.
And
Drop
it's
that
just,
bill.
I always love when it's like, oh, China's doing this shit. We have to pass some sanctions. Everyone's like, I agree, and China's like, no.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well,
Don't
we can't
sanction
do
Or
that.
me.
Russia. Or
And
Russia
like
too.
now,
They're just
yeah.
like no.
And it's like, well,
And they're like,
maybe
all right.
don't include that country in the vote.
Yeah,
Like,
they
that
should be
doesn't
able to
make
vote.
sense.
You should be able to vote on yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't make any. I don't know. That's
And that's where like alliances and stuff come into play because there are
Yeah.
obviously like hidden alliances and things of like vote for this and we'll vote for something of yours probably and then
yeah. It's kind of sad in a way of like how long. Like I mean, because like all the way through history, countries have hated other countries, and like it's kind of sad that at this point we're like, where everyone's like globally connected, like either economy wise or whatever it be, that like no wars are really ever going to happen between large countries anymore.
no
like, that's
convention.
not
You mean like conventional warfare?
not a conventional war.
Or not
That's
even
never,
nuclear warfare, anyways.
No.
I don't think any.
The only ever type of war or fight or battle or whatever that you'll ever get is a cyber one. At this point, that's the
And,
only
like,
thing you'll ever get, and an economic one.
Sanctions.
Yeah.
yeah, trade wars and stuff
proxy
like
Trade
that.
wars. But like, so like it's kind of it kind of sucks how like how basically America and like Russia and China, like they all hate each other but don't, but like they don't really get along at all, purely because of shit that happened like so long ago and like wars that happened that like will never ever happen again, just because it literally can't.
Yeah.
And like this new technological revolution, like if the world was to unite, we could go so far with it.
Yeah,
But because of like everybody just wants to be a fucking asshole and like my country's better than your country,
yeah.
and like they just want to keep that shit, that like we're literally just stalling ourselves.
That's another good
'Cause we're just
question. Is
mad.
like, do you think there could ever be within our lifetime something like that, like a unified
In our
globe
lifetime,
kind
no.
of thing?
Probably not in our
I don't think in our lifetime. I think, in theory, it is possible down the line. I mean, if you really want to be generous about it, maybe by the time we're old, because
Ancient.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, because like by the time we're old, it's like all the old ass white people, or even not. Well, at that point, it will be old ass white people, just old ass people in like senates and the House Representative and like just chairs of power. It'll be our generation that are those old fucking people, and our generation is typically more open-minded than the generation that's currently in power.
I think that's a statistical fact too.
Yeah.
Like,
So like if
The
by
way
that
people
time
lean.
that we're in those seats, and because like I don't know about like Russia or China or India or like anybody else.
well,
in,
China
like,
they
in our-
suppress what people say, so we
Yeah.
can't really understand. We don't really know.
So
but
like so I don't really know how their generation, like our generation in that country, reacts the same way to certain things, if they're equally as open-minded or
Mhm.
not or whatever.
I think the
Yeah,
youth
but
are,
even if they
but
a
can't really
little
know
bit
about
are,
that.
Yeah.
yeah, even if they a little bit are though, then I think that would be our only shot at having a unified world. Maybe not world peace per se, but like
Well,
a
this is
unified
impossible.
Yeah.
a unified council of first world countries would be our best shot.
I think like yeah, no, I agree. Like you can't it's kind of hard to understand how people think right now, but you can look at certain aspects or certain like technological achievements and how like especially like let's say like 30, maybe under the age of 30, maybe under 35. I'll be generous and say like under 35. There's kind of like a global unifying towards like technology and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like there's all this advancement from these people under this age.
Yeah.
And they're all interested in talking to one another because that spreads like more like progressive ideas and stuff like that for moving forward. So like I'm gonna just throw it out there. I don't want to talk about it right now because we'll probably save it for later. But like cryptocurrency, for example, is like a new idea, and that's something that a lot of younger people are more into.
Yeah.
And a lot of the developers and stuff are under the age of 35.
Yeah.
So, and you can always tell, like in China specifically, cryptocurrency is a big thing over there because of the youth. The youth are very interested in it, but the government suppresses that because the government is older.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see how there's like the clash right there.
Yeah.
Versus like even in the United States, there's that everybody here knows social media more than people that are 75 or older.
Yeah.
And those are the people that are currently in office right now.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think China has like the worst version of that, but like because that's
like total suppression.
That same type of thing happens in every country. China just has probably the worst version of that. But like it's literally just old people being lazy and like not wanting to learn new things and
reverse laziness.
Yeah. It's literally just like, oh, this new like cryptocurrency, like, oh, this is new and like this like the global like a global currency that anybody can use anywhere. And like it's literally just older people that are just like, no. They're just like, oh, we got this new idea, let's try this new thing. No.
Jake, because that admits that it's a world economy.
Yeah. It's
well, wow, it's like all the stock markets crash at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Don't.
It's literally just them being fucking...
It's not like the last 3
we'll
weeks
just close the market early.
Just why don't they just
close
put
it
more
at like
money
just
into
close
it?
it at like 4, it'll be fine.
Just throw more money into it and it'll be better.
Yeah, Germany World War I. Let's just print more money.
For the record, no. I don't think we're going to unite anytime soon because the only thing that brings people together is some sort of negative outside event that can't be conquered by individuals. So unless aliens invade,
an alien invasion,
or one country really nuts up and like tries to take over the entire world, I don't see us. Really.
I don't even think that's gonna ever happen.
Because
that's
if
like
you look back through history,
to happen.
that's what unites countries and people within countries is usually like
an external
like,
force.
Let's go. You can go way back in history, but I'll pick like Napoleon. Every country in Europe was like fucking going to war and wanting each other's land because they hate each other, and then Napoleon just started fucking wrecking people. And like,
just
maybe let's
through.
come together and beat Napoleon.
Yeah.
Or like you have the colonial era where everyone's fighting over territory, and then that ends with Hitler trying to steal territory, and then us being like, no more empires, and let's create this UN.
I'm trying to think about like the Napoleon example. After the like coalition of all the other countries defeated him, how long had it been? Was it 100 years before the next big war in Europe, or was there a little?
Yes.
I can't remember. Yeah, because they had
World
found their
War
force.
I
You know?
was the first major conflict in Europe since they beat Napoleon.
I mean, you'd have little countries like doing spats and stuff,
Yeah.
but it was like never anything like larger than that. I think.
Yeah.
Nothing more than involves multiple.
When I read that in
amount of
World War
countries.
I
I'm
book,
pretty sure
that was one of the big points they made. That like that's why Europe was so unprepared
Mhm.
in as far as strategy compared to like technological innovation because they hadn't done a real massive ground war since they fought Napoleon. So then they used Napoleonic tactics against like tanks and machine guns, and that's why it was such like a fucking massacre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Because we're smart people.
Yeah, it's like the.
Well, like I mean, even the Soviet Union, that was such a boogeyman. Like it brought all of Western civilization together.
Yeah.
So unless aliens invade, no.
It's literally you need like the only way to get such a stark change like that would be literally like a fucking Halo scenario. Like that's the only way to get that to happen.
So for like something
for at least for at least literally like a fucking night and day cycle change of
or like Pacific
alliances. Rim. Yeah, like a Pacific Rim type of thing.
Yeah.
So we're going off into science fiction here, but that's really it.
Well,
like, it's unfortunate
like
that's true. Though.
Like that would be the most like definite way that was like absolutely this we will have to unite if this happens.
Other than that, I can only imagine it just being one country rising up and attempting to take the whole world and coming so close that it scares everyone into we have to either come together as one global community or that's just going to happen again. And unfortunately in that scenario, it's probably America. It's just like starts kicking down doors and it's like, I want your oil.
Yeah, as
thanks
fucking,
Great Britain.
Yeah, as fucking like
reverse takeover.
Yeah, as fucking pro-America as that sounds, like with the size of our
No,
military.
I'm not saying we should do that. I'm just
Oh,
saying
yeah,
if
no,
one
no,
country's
I
gonna
know
do
that.
It's probably this
Yeah,
one.
no,
It's
I'm
more
not
of like
saying
pro-hawkish, like
Yeah.
hard hawkish America.
yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
let's share our wealth and knowledge.
as pro
Let's just
America as
take
it
over the
sounds,
next
that probably
country.
is true. Is like if someone can do that, it'd probably be us.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is too is
Yeah,
like,
Space Force.
and like this sounds fucking terrible me saying it. Like that would be nice if we were to do it because
Would it be though?
it's exactly because
your
it
argument,
it
Jake.
sounds like it would be nice for us to do it because I mean one, it's already our fucking culture, so like it would be no transition for us. But two, it would be like on paper we like to say we're the most open-minded people.
Yeah.
And like we're always accepting of outside things. We're free, it's like free speech, free religion.
Mm-hmm.
Do whatever you want. You can stick to your things as long as you abide by our laws. And like
Yeah.
on paper that sounds like it'd be good, but like with the state of like our government and knowing, I don't even know that much about our government, and I know our government is fucked. So like I would
Yeah.
not want our government being the leader of the world. Like no,
Not at all.
I would not
No,
want
it'd
that.
be terrible.
I like
It really would be.
the ideals and everything that America's built on, but the way it is now, I do not want an Emperor Trump. I don't. I don't
God
want
Emperor.
Jesus
Gotta add
does,
one.
Jake.
that. I don't want that.
Jesus wants
That would be
him to
fucking
emperor.
terrible.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like we already run our country so poorly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
right.
go take over Canada. It'd be even worse.
We would just
Like,
yeah.
it
If
would
America
be
had
even
control
worse.
over the world the way it is, we would just ignore certain countries. Like
Yeah,
you know how America
sure just would.
ignores certain states, where states are like, our infrastructure's falling apart, and they're like, shut up.
Yeah.
That would
Solve
happen.
that yourself.
Yeah,
That's
literally
usually-
all-
Australia,
that's usually
Australia
the
would be like, we
statement.
don't have any more food, and we would just like have
Literally,
fun down
all
there.
of Africa to us would just become Puerto Rico.
Yeah, we might as well just like cut Africa off and just let it sink into the ocean.
Yeah.
Because America doesn't care.
We're just like, you guys don't have electricity, right? So what's new? Like, we would just
Yeah.
completely ignore.
So Iraq's still pumping out that oil.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I care about.
Spend more money in the Middle East.
Is my cross-continent roadway done yet?
Yeah. Yeah, seriously.
Cross continent road. Where's my boring tunnels underneath the Atlantic
Yeah.
Ocean?
How are the churches coming? How is all this looking?
It's just like, bring me Elon Musk.
Have,
When will
have,
the Hyperloop be done?
have Emperor Elon. I'll go with that.
Fucking Elon Musk is like, I can imagine him being like 20 years behind on like the Hyperloop plan, but he's like, I swear it's almost done.
It's so
he's like
close.
begging for his life among like Emperor Trump.
Did you
He's
see
like,
the FBI's investigating Tesla
Yeah, I
For
did.
what?
for Model 3 stuff, like their Model 3 car?
Like-
I can't remember what it's for. I think it's for like, is
I
it
saw the
lying
blurb.
or was it
Yeah, something about it.
something about like misleading investors or misleading purchasers?
Oh, was
or
it
something
because
like
of
that?
the fucking tweet
about like
thing?
production? It was something about
no,
their
I think it was
production.
something totally different. Yeah.
I don't
It
know
wasn't
anything
about the Twitter thing. No, it was I think a article last
Well,
night.
because that's what
Or
they
2 nights
said.
ago.
That's what
One
they
of- it
said.
was
His
super
his
recent.
tweet was like, misleading investors or like, what the fuck they called it? Something with like.
It wasn't the investors thing. It was more of like misleading production values or something like that,
Hmm.
or like not hitting quotas like they said they would, and then like because of that, I don't know. It was just
Well,
something
that's-
weird. But
that's
it's
not
like the
something
FBI is
would
involved now with
investigate
Tesla.
over that. If you were
Gotta
Still
read
buying
the
that Tesla Model 3 though.
if you were saying you were hitting a quota and you weren't, and like saying you're making more money than you are, then that would be an investigation. But
It might have been something.
just because you
like
don't,
that,
if
I'm
you
not
if you
sure.
say a quota and you don't meet it, and then you say you don't meet it, that just makes you look bad. But that's not illegal. It just means you're just a shit company or whatever. But
Yeah, I'm not sure about with like business and legal laws and stuff like that. I'm
I
not
didn't
one of
read the
those
article,
people.
I just saw
So.
the blurb.
That's just right over my head. Like, I can talk about the economy, but I can't talk about like certain industry, like business.
I mean,
legal
certain
stuff,
businesses they all have their own problems. They all sort their own shit out eventually, or don't, and they just fucking go bankrupt.
Crash.
Either or, one of them comes
Maybe like
first.
90% of the big companies these days get a
Yeah.
bankruptcy
GE
bailout, and then
Yeah, GE goes bankrupt like 17 fucking times.
Yeah.
let's just bail them out, build more cars.
Yeah, that's literally what it is. So either they'll go under, or they won't. It's just kind of how it is.
Yeah. I do like. I wish more people would focus on like sustainability stuff like Tesla,
Yeah,
which is and even
Well-
like SpaceX is like reusing rockets and stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
never been done before.
the
really.
nice thing is
That's why I'm so hyped.
the
about
only
them.
plus side of this so far is that the leaders in becoming eco-friendly are car companies.
Mhm.
Car companies are taking the biggest step.
They need to. That's
with
the
making
problem.
electronic
They need
cars,
to.
because
they're the
that
ones
is-
pumping the most shit in the
Yeah, one of the
atmosphere.
biggest pollution problems is cars. So
Mhm.
the car company switching is probably actually like the hugest step we have. And if majority of them can become fully electric cars, as like Tesla has, where like every car is just completely electric, then that'll be a huge step. But that still leaves like fucking like China's massive pollution problem, Russia and ours massive pollution problem.
So
it just like factories and like pouring fucking waste into the ocean and like all that shit.
Well, the thing that Obama tried to pass, as far as like he wants all the cars to be hybrid or whatever by a certain time, I don't think that law passed.
Yeah.
But the problem is that's every production car, but like people are still driving cars from the 1980s.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like,
do you think
the old cars last a long time?
If there was enough production for, like, let's say like some kind of electric car, do you think? And like these were like the major companies too, like Ford, Honda, like all these kind of guys. Would you, like, this is something that I read one time and I kind of thought it was interesting. Would you be willing to turn in your car for like a trade-in value kind of thing for a new electric car, even if it was like half price?
Personally, I would. Yes.
You think you
if
would?
I could afford it, I would be for it. Yeah.
However, I wouldn't make people do that.
Yeah, no forcing. But like if it was like an option to do,
personally, I'd be like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll do that.
Like if there was like a $25,000 car and then somebody was like, oh, turn in your car, you'll get $15,000 off. And then you could like, or like, because they'd be getting like the scrap cars and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'd be for that.
I always thought that'd be
an optional trade-in electric car, give us your gas car. I would do that.
Because then they could dismantle it safely without like getting it crushed somewhere and waste and all that stuff.
I just wouldn't make that a mandatory thing. Especially because like in cities, that would work great. You could totally get away with that. Living in New York and DC, you could totally get away with having an electric car. You drive down the street or whatever. Most people don't even fucking own a car in those cities. They just Uber or taxi everywhere.
Or walk, yeah.
But like in heavy populated suburbs area, that would totally work. Here where we live, that would not work because in agriculture,
more spread out
we're more spread out to get everywhere. Just to go from like someone's house who lives out on a back road on 211, it takes a long ass time to get into the grocery store in town. And like for some people, depending on how far it goes, especially if they buy like the cheapest battery version of a car, like was like the 50D or whatever it is.
So like Tesla are using
Tesla as an example. I think like the 50D,
250 miles or something.
250 miles. Like for some people, that could be like almost half of their fucking charge.
Yeah.
It could not saying majority, but some people it could. So like, not to mention people on farms. Electric cars aren't always the strongest. So like some people do need those big diesel trucks.
You need to have powerful cars though. That's the thing. It's like you would have to make different variants.
Well, as annoying as they are to see sometimes, some people do need those big diesel trucks. They log fucking big trees and fucking horses and all kinds of shit around. Like they do need that.
The unfortunate reality is that they still can't figure out how to build a big enough battery for semi trucks.
Yeah.
So
that's one of their big issues.
The 2018 Tesla Model 3, I guess its cheapest variant, I'm assuming, it's $46,000 car, has 136 miles per gallon, I guess you would say, like, or miles per charge for city and 123 for highway. It's not that much. They need to upgrade that.
It's not far at all.
For the city, like that would be okay because you don't go that far most of the time.
But hey, 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.5 seconds.
Yeah, but yeah, that wouldn't work. Like in the Midwest, that wouldn't work at all. That just would not work.
How long does it take to charge our Tesla fully? 20 minutes to charge 50%, 40 minutes to charge 80, 75 per 100%. 75 minutes to charge it fully.
It's not too bad.
That's pretty good. But then you have to think about like the people that want to charge it. Like, will gas stations become like new like charging hubs?
And then you
have to find a way to pay for the electricity for that.
Yeah.
So how?
Yeah. Well, that really just comes down to like whichever one wants to pick it up first. Sheetz, Wawa, Shell, whichever one wants to become.
I think if you do pick it up, you're going to be like the lead, like the industry leader, though.
But the thing is, though, is you're only going to want to put them in select spots because again, you're not going to want to put charging stations in the Midwest. You're not going to make that much money off.
I've already seen gas stations that have like one charging station.
But yeah, if you were to go like if I was a gas station in LA, fuck yeah, I'd have tons of charging stations. You
bring a lot of revenue in.
Yeah,
I wonder if you could charge for like electricity, revenue. You know?
Yeah,
maybe
totally.
like a 50% charge. Swipe, you get the 50%. You pay however much.
I mean, you can literally just track how much wattage goes through.
If you don't want to do that, I would charge you for how long you're in the spot.
Just how long you're there.
Oh, more of like a time thing than a.
Yeah, because then you can guess how much energy they're using, and you can just charge them a flat rate.
It'd be a different way to it'd be different to calculate it compared to like however much like a gallon of gas is.
Yeah, I wonder how much that does cost. Charge your car like at home because like you get like a home charger with it. I wonder how much that increases your electricity bill.
I'll look it up though.
Probably a decent amount.
I wonder if it's like huge, because like if it wasn't that big, then like I could almost seeing it being maybe not free, but like pretty fucking cheap.
Or you just get solar panels. You know what I'm saying?
That's long term goal is literally to put, because that I think Elon Musk talked about it on the Joe Rogan podcast. One of his early designs was to have solar panels on top of the car.
Yeah, solar panel or Elon
On his car, he does.
Doesn't he have solar panels on his home too to charge it?
He
was installing it when.
Well, he has solar panels, and he's beta testing the roof shingles for his own house. His shingles are solar panels.
That shit's genius.
But one of his early designs, I think, for the Tesla is on top of the car, there are solar panels to charge it. And like I don't think they could incorporate it at the time. They still can't do it really, but I think that is long-term goal, something they want to do. Because that would make it a lot easier.
The average cost of electricity in the United States is 12 cents per kilowatt, or something like that. Therefore, the average person driving 15,000 miles a year pays about $540 a year to charge it.
That's pretty good.
That's ridiculously good compared to gas.
Mm-hmm. Considering you're paying $30
I spend
for gas
$30 to
now for a
$40
full
every
tank.
2 weeks.
Motherfucker, it cost me $50.
Ooh, I pay only 30.
Yeah, I do 30 to 40, depending on the gas price.
That bitch guzzles.
But that's
gas.
like, let's just say every other week you have to pay for gas.
Yeah.
So what's 52 divided by 2?
26.
26 times 30.
I don't know.
Let's say it's like $30.
That's a weird.
26 times 30 is you're paying $780 a year on average. So that's still like a third slasher, almost like that's $200 something dollars.
Yeah. Yeah, that's $200 a lot.
That's only for the low. Like that's $30 per gas tank. So
yeah.
That's
and that's every other week.
$30 is my lowest that I've ever had. As of right now, like for my gas, I'm doing like I only do 30 because technically if I filled it, I'd be up in like the 45, almost 50.
That's what I do. I just ride it till it's almost.
You're paying over $1,000 if it's $40 a week.
Yeah.
Or every other week.
I try to do just 30, and that gets me like
so that's
3/4 of a tankish, 2/3.
Which is why it's affordable. Like
Mm-hmm.
an electric car, it's affordable now. It's getting more affordable.
It's gonna get more affordable.
The outright cost sometimes can be a little more expensive, but over time you do save more money. And well, save money across like just paying for fuel, and then on top of that, repair costs.
True.
Your car lasts a lot longer compared.
I do know when they first came out with hybrid cars, they were having problems getting rid of the old batteries as far as what to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, they have a system in place now.
I think, because one of the especially like the early Priuses,
the really early Priuses, those were the ones that were having a problem with.
They
like,
weren't
the
sure what
would
to do with the batteries.
And they was like, I don't know what to do with this.
Well, I think now, I'm not 100% sure about it, like every car company, but I think like Tesla, I think when their average is like every 8 years, I think your car battery will brick, and then
8 years is still pretty good.
Yeah, every 8 years it'll brick, depending on how often you drive, I guess, and what kind of battery you have. But the average is like 8 years it'll brick, and then I think they can take it and recycle it for parts of another battery, but I don't know if they can recycle the entire thing. I'm not.
It's probably just parts.
I'm not totally sure, because I'm sure there are some parts that like the parts that are the reason. Whatever reason the battery bricks out is the part you probably can't recycle.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, I don't know how a battery's built, but I'm not sure if they can totally recycle it. But I know they're getting pretty close.
Yeah, we should start doing shooting trash into space.
Shoot.
You think so? Into the sun.
I mean, like,
sun.
I don't know. I'm for that and against it at the same time.
Totally.
There's space junk, then that's dangerous.
Well, because you have to shoot
out
it
of the atmosphere.
Yeah, you have to shoot it fucking.
I'm not
far.
saying shoot
like,
it into our rotation.
Yeah, don't create a space junk.
It's like that's Wall-E. That's like a Wall-E
Yeah,
scenario.
don't create fucking Wall-E.
If we have the ability to shoot trash into space, powerful enough to get it out of our gravitational pull, I'm totally down.
And make it cost effective.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah.
I think that probably
because
the biggest
think about
issue,
that,
though.
Then you have literally there's no
limit.
You'd have to though.
I think the biggest problem though is literally just making it cost effective. I think that's a huge wall for that.
Oh yeah, it definitely is.
What if we just bury
I'm just
it
saying
in the ocean?
theoretically. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Let's just make a new landmass.
You know the
in
Marianas
Pacific
Trench?
Ocean.
Just send it down there. It's gonna be the world's landfill.
Marianas Trench, motherfucker, fill it.
Like, we could fill it in like a year.
That's the question though. Is like, would you trust rockets enough at this point to send trash into space? What if the rocket explodes and sends all this trash everywhere?
Mac cannon. space.
I mean, I don't know.
Railgun.
With recent rockets,
Railgun.
A railgun.
we haven't
but
had
then
one straight up just fuck up
dumpsters.
in a while.
A rocket?
Not in a
That
while.
one that was carrying the Apollo astronauts just a couple weeks ago failed. They had
The
to reject.
Soyuz one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah,
That was a
Did it?
Russian one, though. Russian rockets are super cheap.
I have an issue with that.
I don't think they had a problem with the Falcon rockets for SpaceX.
None of the Falcons have fucked up, I don't think.
Who runs the Atlas one? Not NASA.
Is that Virgin Mobile dude? Doesn't he shoot
Maybe.
rockets off?
Occasionally.
Just
Then
for
there's
fun.
the
Just fuck it.
Bezos has his own rocket company.
Does he?
Of course he does.
Amazon.
What else
I
are we
shouldn't be
gonna do with, like,
surprised,
$1 trillion
They're
fucking
all
dollars?
into it now. That's the new thing.
And yeah, Mars.
Are you
fucking-
really a billionaire if you
Leaving-
don't have your own
They're gonna
rocket
leave
program?
this hellscape. Yeah, I want to too.
going to fucking Mars?
Fuck that.
I'm moving to Mars.
down
Fuck you
with that.
guys.
See you later. Maybe never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
Would
the-
you pay for an electric car if it didn't have all like so like going back to Tesla again? Teslas are expensive because they're like super technological, right?
Yeah.
Like they have the big like flat screen,
massive
basically
touchscreen
a
in the center
TV in your
console.
own car,
Yeah.
a sideways
Yeah.
TV. Would you pay for an electric car cheaper if it didn't have that?
If it didn't have
Yeah.
all the extra shit.
If you could
If
just
it
put in
just-
like what you have in your
if-
car right now,
Yeah,
if
and
it
it
was
was
literally
it
just
ran
like
the
my
same.
Super
if it was
basic.
literally just my
Yes.
Jeep but electric,
Mhm.
yeah, I'd still buy it.
I'd still buy that.
Yeah.
I don't need to be. I mean, it's like one of those things. Like
I
that's
would
cool.
love to have all the
or the
extra cool
doors that
shit.
go up. That's
yeah, the
pretty
butterfly
cool.
doors.
But
But
Yeah,
no,
'cause-
I just in general would be down just for everyone to have electric cars. Everyone that could use them, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because in theory, I mean, that's all that we have now. Like buying a Mercedes, you're just buying a car with a lot more luxury.
Yeah.
It's still a gas car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's every
Just the
that's literally
interior,
why not
basically.
just why instead of buying the fucking Audi A8, why wouldn't you just buy a fucking Toyota Camry? Like
Mhm.
you're paying just for luxury. So
I
Yeah.
want a fucking Audi.
You're part of the
A
problem.
lot of them are diesel now, which is pretty cool.
yeah, along with diesel.
Diesel's a much better fuel, but the only problem is diesel's a byproduct of gasoline. So
Yeah.
like you can't just make
You
diesel.
can't just make diesel. You do a lot of research with that.
Yeah.
We're going for 53 minutes.
Time is a constant.
Actually, a little bit
Come on,
longer
Jake.
because I started the watch a little bit late, so probably
Yeah, whatever.
close to an hour. You think that's pretty good?
I don't know.
Anything else we could talk about the
Uh,
future, since that's kind of like what
well,
we're on? That's
I
our
was.
topic.
It was funny. I watched. We talked about Avengers last time because I'd watched Avengers, and I went back and watched some of like the deleted scenes and the director's stuff. And the more I watched that movie, the more I'm totally on Thanos' side. Like not even
Thanos did nothing
did
wrong.
nothing wrong.
Did nothing wrong.
The biggest meme because
But it's not a meme. We're
Everyone-
talking about the
when
fact
Reddit
that we
purges
need
half of
to
this.
stop having children.
yeah,
Thanos is right because what's going to happen is we're just going to pump people onto the Earth until the Earth just collapses on itself because we have no resources. So what we need to do is have a China style. You can only have one child policy for the fucking planet. That's what needs to happen.
I gotta go with 2-kid policy.
One child
Go with
or
2-kid.
no children.
I will. I
You
would
could
leave
adopt.
it. I would leave it.
You can adopt.
Yeah, I would promote
That is a
adopting.
simple.
I would promote
answer.
adopting, but
We should promote adopting more.
well, I think that's literally the reason why so many people, like you said, like fucking every billionaire is just investing in a space program now because
Because this planet's fucked.
well, because
Get
that
us
is the
outta
it's
here.
the much like easier to accept version of the same problem of the overpopulation problem.
Yes.
Why do you think we're trying to go to fucking Mars? Is because we have an
We
overpopulation
need to
problem.
expand. It's
Yeah.
at that
And
point
the-
where like humanity
like,
needs to
The
expand.
more socially acceptable
Manifest
way to
destiny.
do that.
Yeah, manifest destiny. Let's
Manifest
take over
destiny,
Mars.
boys.
Yeah, the socially
those
acceptable way to
Martians.
deal with that problem is to leave the planet and go to another one and try to colonize that instead of let's stop fucking making kids
Nope.
and like the extremist route of Thanos where it's like let's just fucking start killing people because we got too many
Half.
fucking
It's like it's
do
all
it
I can
completely
think of
random
right
because
now
we
is
got
that
too many
fucking-
motherfuckers.
All I can think of is that fucking Drake meme where it's like stop having children, save the planet. It's like no.
No.
Well-
It's like go to Mars.
Do you think there need like I guess overpopulation is a pretty serious issue right now
It's
because there's
I
so
think
many
it's just
countries
gonna
that are
It's
just
way more
it's just
serious
gonna
than
get worse
anybody
and
wants
worse.
to acknowledge.
because there's going to be a point like and it's been kind of like I don't know if it's been documented but it's kind of like one of those correlations
Yeah.
which if you have an explosive boom in population eventually you're going to have like that correction right
Mm-hmm.
like everything
Yeah.
is on that like parabolic path
Yeah.
of eventually where there's a correction to it and whether the correction is like some kind of superbug disease that wipes out like a quarter of a
Probably
country
that.
somewhere or maybe somebody's like I need to expand and then they declare war on like a neighbor to take over their territory in which case then a lot of people die in
It's
that
just genocide.
there's
yeah.
going to be some kind of correction when it comes to overpopulation
Yeah.
so What do you think that would be? Do you think it's going to be?
Probably, my money's on disease.
I'm leaning on disease
because
too.
unfortunately, in so many of these places where they have so many people, it's really, really poverty.
Yeah, so like India. Are you talking about like India?
If some disease
was to
kill
everyone.
Some disease was to break out that like we couldn't make a cure for fast enough, broke out in China or India.
The thing is, there already is superbugs. Like
exactly.
Yeah,
they just haven't caught that idea where it can jump so fast.
It hasn't mutated yet.
Yeah,
to a point.
it doesn't mutate, and not most of the time. It doesn't start in a first world country like India or China. It usually starts somewhere in like Africa.
But what do you think, like Ebola?
Where you can like isolate.
I was just about to say
people.
we were really lucky that Ebola thing was Ebola and not cholera. Something that can jump a lot faster. Because Ebola, whether you like it or not, is a hard to transfer disease.
Yeah.
If it had been cholera and it was in the water, it would have killed a lot more.
Did you guys know that there was a current Ebola outbreak right now?
I did, and they were afraid it was going to jump borders.
Well, technically, isn't there almost always a small little outbreak of Ebola? It's every so often, like every 5 to 10 years.
So often, but like
every 5 to 10 years, it has a big
now.
explosion.
One day ago, The Telegraph, it's a news article, Ebola outbreak spreads as war and disease threaten perfect storm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the most negative thing that I can think of.
That sentence got worse because you kept reading.
That's like all the buzzwords to be like, wow, I don't really want to read this.
Yeah,
this is the time I want to live out in the country, where I'm away from everybody.
Yeah, right. I don't blame those people who live in like Colorado, where it's like a town of 50. It's like I can't blame you at all.
Just go in Colorado, you just live on a fucking mountain. You're isolated from everybody else. You got people flown
Nobody
in.
cares what we do out here.
Yeah, you got people flown into there. You just be like, no flights anymore. We're fucking staying
It's like
isolated.
one sheriff in your town.
Fuck that shit.
155 deaths since August 1st of this Ebola outbreak. I haven't seen this on this. I haven't seen this on the news.
300 in that first big case that everyone like lost their shit over.
Yeah.
It's got halfway there already.
Yeah. And no one cares.
And nobody's done anything about it.
Because it's got a top.
And it's apparently has potential to go cross the border over into Uganda.
That's what it was. Yep. They had seen a case at the border and they were really afraid it was going to jump.
That would be bad.
And it's in an active conflict zone too.
Or you have this weird disease in America now, that weird polio-like disease. It's
I saw that. Was that the New Jersey one?
It's a lot of it's in the Midwest, like Montana.
Maybe
and
Midwest.
Stuff. But I think a kid got it in New Jersey.
There was something somewhere where a bunch of kids got sick.
Yeah, it's that.
Because of that. Okay, that might.
But they say there's cases of it every year. It's just it's becoming a little more. It's still not. America has a problem with reporting on disease like it's about to just like ravage us completely, and it never fucking happens.
That's my favorite video to watch.
It is my least
fucking
favorite thing. It pisses the whole idea where like you remember when Zika was just going to destroy this planet.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
like
people hyped that up. People did hype that up too much.
Or the what was it? What was that other one?
H1N or H1?
H1. There was H1N1. That was.
I almost said Z1. I almost said H1Z1.
I'm trying to.
H1N1 and there was H1N2.
Yeah.
Which was the newer one. There was the swine flu and then the avian flu, swine flu, one of the two.
I think they were
I remember getting my shots.
H1N1 was swine.
I remember getting swine flu shots in school.
Yeah, I remember getting that.
I was in the old gym at Fock here.
That only killed like 100 kids too.
Yeah, it did.
But that was, I think, it was more the scare.
Yeah,
it was the scare of it.
America
it
really
was.
Well, did you ever watch the fucking video of
Jake showed me a gross
during the Zika outbreak of UK media versus American media?
No,
it's fucking disgusting.
Is the UK media much more like relaxed?
The UK media is reassuring. They're like, oh, like there's been a small outbreak. We have teams on site. They've isolated and quarantined all the people. A vaccine is currently being developed, and they say they are making progress. We'll make this better. And then it cuts to America, and it's like, we're fucking dead. Yeah. We're gonna die.
Like it's legit.
Everyone
just like, how
run.
It makes it to America.
And it's like this massive outbreak is coming to murder all of us. Everyone go inside
like
and stay inside.
I
don't touch anybody.
I can't watch the news for that kind of stuff.
I can't watch the news anymore.
It's disgusting. Like they literally just want to make mass hysteria.
Well, then again, the mass hysteria does make people vaccinate. It does make
it makes people vaccinate, but it also just like I don't know what the word for it is.
It's a scare. It's like there's better ways to do it.
It's a fear tactic for nothing.
It's a fear tactic which you can easily say, hey, we have a vaccine. Go to this place, get the vaccine, you'll be fine.
I mean, you could do that without trying to scare everybody. You could make it like a serious message, like go and get this vaccine so you and your kids don't fucking die.
No, they have to do that intro, like scary music intro, and then like this just
at the end of the day, news studios are still trying to make money, and if you make money by views and clicks, and you do that by
Yeah.
getting a polarizing headline that scares people so they fucking go to your news channels. At the end of the day, it's still about money. Now I sound like Nick.
It always is.
Hot take of mine. The newspapers are still better at portraying things than visual, like,
Gonna be honest, I
TV.
don't read the newspaper, so I
I don't
can't
read
really
newspaper
argue that
ever.
point.
because
I
like
love
I still
newspaper.
think that like when newspapers come out, it's more like informational.
That's true. Like when you
Then
read a Washington
like you
Post
go into like
article,
I'll say CNN or something, and then just like, oh, beware of this, beware of these people,
That is
don't
true.
do this, don't do that, don't do these, because this is gonna happen. It's gonna be terrible.
Yeah.
Like it's a little bit more fear mongery on
It is.
visual news, in my opinion, than it is on like newspapers, which I still get my news from the newspapers
because who
occasionally.
reads, Dom? All right.
I don't fucking read.
We're in
Say
that
that.
information age now.
I mean, I think that's why though I like getting my news sources from news articles
InfoWars.
and multiple news articles. Like I'd prefer to read the Washington Post and fucking that's the long list of anybody, the AP, whoever.
Yeah.
I'd much rather read all of those and form opinion based on all of them rather than just fucking watch News 4 every night for
I
2
can't watch
hours.
it. Dude, I
And
those
like
turn
that's
on at
the
my
only
house, and I'm
news
just like,
source
out
you
the
get
room.
all
Yeah,
day.
local news is a can. Because my favorite thing is
it's
you can
awful.
legit. All right, so at 11 o'clock, all the news comes up.
Mhm.
If you flip channels, they all talk about a different story off the lead.
Mhm.
Unless it's
Did
some
you,
national news
Unless it's
story.
some big thing.
Did you guys ever watch the John Oliver on Scripps on local TV, local news stations?
Is that like an old one?
2 years ago, a year ago.
I might have seen a part of that.
There was a thing where they found, so there's like a company that provides scripts basically that they create for news channels that they operate, and they're always local news channels, so like of like small towns and stuff. And they stitched together all these different towns across the United States, and they all were saying the exact same thing word for word off of the script,
That
like on
makes
one of the
sense.
teleprompters.
I might have seen that clip just of that part
It's
where
like-
it's like
it's
it's like
weird.
literally like 40
weird.
anchors reading
Yeah,
the same
They
thing.
it's like they start out with one, and then they bring it up to the
Bring
corner,
it
and
up
then they
to
go add another one,
3,
and it's
4,
like they're just
6,
in unison
yeah.
saying it, and then they add like 50 more onto
They're
the
all
screen. They're
repeating
all in
word for
unison.
word.
It's pretty terrifying to watch.
Yeah,
But that's
it's
like
gross.
that's why I don't watch it. Like
Yeah.
they all say the same things.
Well, and I mean, it does again make sense because if you're trying to get the most views, you can't be talking about exactly what your next competitor's talking about.
Mhm.
You know, you have to talk about like going back to my point about when they come on to 11, they're all talking about a different lead story.
Yeah.
You can't all be talking about the house fire that happened, because then all the news crews are at the same spot.
Yeah,
And
that's
you have to be like,
But there is still, at least I mean with local news maybe it's a little bit different, but like usually if you go to some big house fire, there usually is 5 or 6 there. Like
depending, yeah.
true.
like-
Everybody has the like. Well, that's the thing. News like stations
But,
they have
like,
like 100 people that are
they-
willing to just
they
go
don't-
out and,
they
not
don't
100,
pick-
but like 20 people that
they
go out
don't
and-
pick everything. They all pick
You
the
know?
same number of things that they know will get views. They don't necessarily pick the important things. They pick the
Yeah.
interesting things.
Yeah, true.
Exactly.
It's the things that are like that make you look at a news article online, at least the title, and go, I want
Yeah.
to see what that is like. Click.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or like, I want to learn more about that. Click.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that we have right now, I think, is that doing it for those clicks and views.
Smash that motherfucking like button.
Let's start a news fucking business.
We
Oh,
could
yeah.
probably start a.
Might as well
You know,
just slit my wrists. Right
I don't
now.
know, like, I don't know if there's a
Fuck
single
that.
good independent news station that's not biased.
Probably.
I can't
Us.
really think of one like
Us.
off the top of a head, you know? Something that would be like, oh, like I'll steer clear of that news because everybody else is talking about it because I feel like this is more important over here and should we have more attention to it
If there is, you probably just don't know about it.
because it's
Yeah,
not
they
big
probably got stifled.
because it's not they've been
Yeah,
silenced
they-
or
it's
not
literally-
silenced suppressed more
But it's
than
literally just they didn't get enough people with interesting headlines that like they just couldn't get off the ground,
Or
or maybe they're
Yeah,
trying and
because
they're
they're
still
reporting
there.
on boring things like overpopulation.
Yeah.
or
lack
things
of
that are
food.
yeah
Or
those
well,
are-
like reporting on shit that's
Drake
still
meme.
reporting on shit that's yeah they're reporting on
That's the
not
meme.
a problem. They're not reporting on a new problem. They're reporting on a problem that's still there,
yeah
aka
The
overpopulation.
fucking
Or like
Pacific
Flint or
garbage-
something,
or, like,
or
the
climate
Pacific
change.
garbage patch or whatever.
Yeah.
Puerto Rico
Yeah, they're just
power.
reading the same. Like this is still a fucking problem.
Yeah.
We're still all gonna die in 10 years, and everyone's like, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, for real.
Like that's why nobody
Did
watches.
you see this goat riding a skateboard?
Yeah.
I don't care. But like, yeah, and it's hard because I want to find places like that that are more free thought. Like,
Yeah.
this is a problem and we need to fix it, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Before 4chan.
Yikes.
Even worse.
Fucking fortune.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
the cesspools.
The
of
day I
meme
use
culture.
4chan as my news source, the day I kill myself.
Yeah.
It could be today.
There's no bias there. Come on.
So we don't do any sort of outro or anything, do we? Just kind of fucking
See you next week.
see you
Goodbye.
see you next
Thanks
week.
for stopping
Goodbye.
by, Sandy.
See if we ever get this fucking thing put together, like a professional, who knows.
Nope.